All right, so food is a drug, but drugs aren't bad. So this is the thing. I have been putting in efforts to figure out this whole diet thing for some time now. I mean, I'm basically a walking experiment. Every day is different. I try things out. I see what works. I see what doesn't work. I made a video recently about what I've come to with diet, and which is basically that I'm starting to look into this whole Ayurvedic thing to do with dosha. I feel that there is something to it because at the end of the day, we're more than just this physical being. We are an energetic being, right? And so working along those lines with the subtle body and things like that, that is an element, right? And it doesn't cancel out any other elements. At the same time, this human organism, as far as I can tell, based on all of my research and the people that I see thriving in diets for the longest period of time, who are strong, who are clear thinking, who are healthy looking, young looking, which is what I would like to go through, are on a raw food diet. And so this has worked for me. And then I stopped doing it, and then started essentially experiencing some of the same challenges that I experienced before with a cooked food diet, with too much cooked food in the diet. I was eating all raw food there for a bit, and then like just recently, and then I felt, because of, I think, what I'm going through in my life energetically, emotionally, mentally, living in a car, I'm in this transition. I'm in this place where I'm figuring things out. I don't have a lot of stability. I needed a little something, a little more to help lower my energy, to help densify where I'm at. And so I made a meal of lentils. I made a lemon dal, which is super lovely. I don't know if I ever made a video about it, but I will sometime. And it was amazing. My body thanked me so much for it. And then the next day I back to raw food. And then the next day I was like, okay, well, maybe every other day I'll eat raw or cooked food. So then I made lentils last night, and it didn't sit with me, because it's like, it's not a matter of a schedule. You know, your body is hyper intelligent. It speaks to you, but you don't need to outthink it, you know, you can't put it on a schedule, be like, okay, well, I'll do this at these intervals or this or that. You have to just listen. You have to pay attention. You have to communicate. You have to work with it. And so the way that I'm coming to look at this is like, well, you know, based on what I've experienced, it's like, I am going to once again take this leap, into raw food, like 100% raw food for the periods of time that, for extended periods of time, 100% raw. No exceptions. And I think this is going to be much easier once I move back into my house, or when I move out of my car and into a place, because I will then once again have a blender and a dehydrator and a juicer and a food processor. So it makes making all of these things much easier, because you can't really buy raw vegan baking, not cooking desserts for what it's worth. Or yeah, I mean, I don't like paying through the nose for certain things, and you know, it's always a compromise unless you live in some place, but still then it's going to compromise your wallet, and I'm just not into that. And so, you know, back on this whole raw food kick, and that's great. But the way that I'm looking at it, and I've heard people say it before, is that, okay, so cooked food falls into the category of a drug, because it's not something that your body needs per se, right? And so before I get sidetracked, I'm going to say, it's like, so, I mean, in my understanding of drugs in general, what people consider to be drugs, we're talking about things like, say, marijuana. it's a plant medicine. You know, it's a medicine, right? But we use the colloquial term drug to describe certain things like that. Even like, you know, mescaline from peyote cactuses, or ayahuasca, or, you know, there's a variety of different medicines, right? But and does the body need them per se? No. You know, the body. But we're not just the body. I mean, you know, in yoga, I tell you, at the end of my yoga classes, as a part of Yoga Nidra, when we stop associating ourselves with the body and the breath, it's like, I am not the body, I am not the breath, I am not the sum accumulation of the experiences that I've been through in my life. I am more than that. I am something else. I am a unique element, you know, a beautiful aspect of consciousness. You know, I am an element of the eternal. I'm the eternal witness. I am something that is infinite. I am a part of, you know, I'm something that does not go away. Like, if my unique energy did not exist for even a fraction of a second, then all that is would not be all that is, and the universe would collapse, because there would be you know, like a crack that goes through it that would like shatter the whole thing. You know, like, this is just my own way of conceptualizing the thing, right? So it's like, you know, we are not this body. This body is our vehicle. This body is my chariot. I cherish it. I take care of it. I love it. I adore it. I honor it. I respect it. I listen to it. But it is not everything that is going on here. There is more to me than this body. And so there is the subtle body, you know, there is the mental body, there is the emotional body, there is the energetic body, you know, and all these things, right? And it's like, so and so just as it's important to honor and respect the physical body, it has to be, if all of these other things do exist, which as far as I am aware of do, it is important to honor and respect them. And then that is where these things that we colloquially call drugs, plant medicines, things, or just really any substance that you can put into your body, that you can work with, that can be worked with to help bring back and restore a state of homeostasis, to help restore equilibrium, balance in the body. And those things, you know, sometimes, say like when a person is like deeply emotionally upset, there are certain medicines, marijuana being one of them, that can be worked with in order to bring a person out of that negative space, that emotional space, and up back towards the heart space. So back to a normalizing space. And I'm not talking about smoking weed all day, every day. I'm not talking about smoking at all. I would be talking about consuming the medicine in a format that is not detrimental to the body, or at least has the smallest possible impact. And burning it and putting it to your lips is not one of those ways. And so what is it? I just got to write something down. And so, yeah, like, you know, these medicines, they can be used for tremendous benefit or whatever, right? And so, and the same thing with ayahuasca. I mean, a lot of people have had traumatic upbringings, and so it can really help to have a medicine that can help bring to the surface something that is been troubling you, that you can't put your finger on, but is influencing your behavior, or it is yeah, it is a factor in the way that you are approaching life and stuff like that. And the same thing with mescaline and whatnot, because it's this masculine energy as opposed to the feminine, which is, so the masculine, it's more like to do with the relentlessness of life, how it's just like keeps coming. It's just thing after thing after thing, and it can be overwhelming. And so to be able to sit with that in a certain way, with a plant teacher that can help you to come to terms with the continual, unfolding of life, which and the challenges that we face in life. Right. And so, and then of course the sacred mushroom, which is this child energy, which some people, they get older and they lose touch with their inner child. They forget how to have fun, how to laugh, how to play, how to have joy, how to be, I don't know, like to have that child energy, right? And so these sacred medicines can really help people in their mental, emotional, body, as well as physical too, because they are all interrelated. It's a system. And so when you release the emotional and the mental, the tension that builds up in these places, then the body relaxes as well. And then all of a sudden you don't have the pain here, and then you're not, you can relax and you're not reacting to things. So it's like there are these medicines, right? And then on to this next one, which is cooked food. I mean, does the body need it? As far as I can tell, no, it does not. We appear to be frugivorous animals, frugivorous, meaning we eat fruit. Fruit has everything that our bodies need in it, but our lives are complex. Our social structures are complex. We're involved in all sorts of things. There's a lot of things going on. And certainly just the way that our interactions, we get upset, and sometimes cactus, prickly pear cactus, say like a banana or watermelon, isn't going to do it. We're looking for something a little more hearty, a little more nourishing, and even maybe nuts and seeds, it's just not what we're feeling. Sometimes there is a time and a place, especially after a plant medicine ceremony. There is always the inclusion of a stew or something like that is made with root vegetables, because it's like energetically the root, it is a grounding thing, because if we work with medicine and we experience an elevated state, it's important to counter that with something which is going to help balance our energy out, so that we'll get a good sleep at night, or whatever, eventually, however that is. And like with the cooked food, it's like, there are times when I find that it is helpful for myself to ingest cooked food. I mean, there is a space for it in my life in certain circumstances, depending on what I'm going through, what I'm involved in, where I find myself at, how I'm feeling. It's not something, but just like with other things, like with weed, it's not something to get lost in. It's not something to forget that it's not the answer per se. It is medicine, which, like a drugs, medicine is something that you use or work with in order to help bring about a state of equilibrium, to bring a healthy state back. But once you are better, you don't keep working, you don't just keep taking the medicine. It's not a pastime. It's not something, it's not, because people use it as escapism, and then this is something else. And then we're talking about addiction and whatnot. And of course, that it's not like any of these substances are inherently addictive. It's just that they can be used in a way to avoid actually dealing with what needs to be dealt with, right? So, you know, I think that for, at least for myself, the way that I'm looking at it is that cooked food is good for what ails you, but it's not a way of life. You know, there are certain, just like weed, it's like smoking weed, you know, is not the worst, but if you're doing it every day, you know, if you can't live without it, if you're just all about getting high, you know, it's not what you're doing, it's why you're doing it and what you're doing with it. And so if you're just abusing it, you know, like you abuse cooked food and you just, you know, if that is the path that you're on, well, I would just say that there are likely going to be certain challenges associated with that approach to anything, you know, any relationship that you have with anything, with any substance, with any energy, with yourself, with any activity that, you know, that you might find yourself involved in. If you're using it to avoid or to cover up or to, yeah, I mean, or even like whether it's sex, whether it is what do you call it, entertainment. So we're talking TV and movies, we're talking food, we're talking drugs, we're talking relationships in general. You know, like people, a lot of people, they have pets, you know, is not something, it's a challenging subject, right? And I was just saying, I'm not 100% against pets, right? But I mean, that's another subject, right? But some people, it's like they put their loneliness on an animal, right? And it's just not right to have, you know, to boss around some animal that really belongs with its own kind, with its own species and whatnot, being able to, you know, mate with its own species and have children with its own species and raise their children in however it chooses to without interference from other animals and having to worry about child abduction and having their children sold for money and things like that, or being forced to yeah, you know, that's not a good subject to go down right now. It's not the purpose of this, right? But the thing is, was just about abuse in relationships, like say just with people, you know, like you can't put where you're at on somebody else. You know, you gotta, yeah, it's important to respect all relationships. You know, I don't want to get off topic here, right? The point was about food and cooked food, and yeah, just buyer beware. You know, it is one of those things. It is beautiful, it's enjoyable, it's lovely, it can be of tremendous benefit in a variety of circumstances, but it is like anything, it requires an amount of self-control, it requires discipline, it requires integrity in order for the relationship to be harmonious, and yeah, for things to not get out of control, so that you don't get carried away with something and whatnot. Yeah, so yeah, not against cooked food. It's not about that, right? It's about other stuff, you know, like everything that I just shared. And so this is where I'm at right now. You know, could be completely out to lunch, but this is what rings true now. It feels right, and it's like it's, you know, I'm getting closer and closer with this diet stuff. And if you watched any of my videos, my message has not changed one bit during this whole thing. It is a, you know, a work in process, but it is essentially going down the same lines. Like I said, this is the 5th or 6th time I've embraced 100% raw food, because every time I start eating too much cooked food, I feel like a cooked food. I feel like a baked potato. I feel lethargic. I lose some of my vigor, you know. I can see it show up in my face with like lines under my eyes. I can tell when I'm eating things by the complexion of my skin and just my overall energy and energy levels and my mental clarity and all this kind of stuff, you know. It becomes apparent, and it's like, well, I'm not doing any drugs right now. I am not drinking. I am not smoking weed. I am not doing anything that would be causing any kind of you know, less than, what do you call it, ideal condition that my body would then be giving me feedback. The only thing that I am doing, which is in question as far as I'm concerned, aside from living in a car, but I'm on top of that, is eating cooked food. And I've experienced it so many times that as soon as I stop, all of that stuff just goes away, and I just look, you know, it is a fountain of youth. I'll all of a sudden look 10 years younger. It just happens. It happens relatively quickly. For myself, it's once my entire small intestine has ejected everything that's in there, and then it's like, okay, all of that stuff is out, and then it becomes replaced with other stuff, and then it takes a minute for the body to like renormalize and whatnot, and to get back. It's like, okay, just raw food. I mean, but then the digestion slows down, and then your body really takes the time that it needs to digest the things that you put in it. And yeah, so that's where I'm at, you know. So it's 100% raw most of the time, right? And then cooked food as is needed, you know. So yeah, that helps anybody, good. It helps me tremendously, and that is why I make these videos.